everyone, Andre here along with Nick, aka Steftendo, to discuss the brand new Sonic game, specifically Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, because we both put a ton into the beta or network test, whatever it was, over the weekend. I thought I put in a lot of hours. It was apparently nothing compared to Nick. Nick, how much did you play again?
It says on the PlayStation at the bottom of the screen, I showed that I played 15 hours. So I did record some gameplay and stuff, but yeah, I put a lot of time into it. I almost hit, I think, the top rank. I believe I finished at A rank, and then above that is legendary. So
wow, yeah, I saw a few legendaries in my playtime. So you were close to that. That's amazing. You already got basically full value out of this game, and it was free. So,
and that's the thing. I think I put in more time into this one compared to the last one, Team Sonic Racing, which came out like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Which I was not a big fan of that one, but this one, yeah, I'm loving it.
You know, yeah, let's kind of just get to it, right? Like, the fact that I even want to talk about this game says something, because I was having a total blast. Like, I played this game more than any other Sonic Racing game. I actually like Sonic Racing All-Stars Transformed, or whatever it was. I thought that was cool. This game, great. I'm having a blast with it. Is it perfect? Probably not. But I am having so much fun with it, that didn't even matter, you know? And it's a beta, so they will probably improve things for the final version. But it was so, Nick, I can't tell you how nice it was to play a competent kart racing game that isn't freaking Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I'm so sick of that game, Nick. 10 years of the same game. It's so nice to have something that feels new, you know?
And that's the thing, it makes Mario Kart feel a little dated with how much is going on in this game. Like, you look at the UI, you look at the menus, you look at the character selection, the building the cars. It does feel, Mario Kart 8 feel a little, like I said, dated, but, I mean, who knows what's going to happen with the next Mario Kart? This might hold us over till then, but I think that's one thing to point out too. They don't have a release date for this, and they might be waiting for the Switch 2 event, because we already got the beta now. It has to be coming the first half of the year, I believe.
Yeah, I feel like you're probably right. I mean, unless they really delay it. I mean, and that's what kind of sucks, right? The timing just feels like it's probably bad for this game. Had it come out a year ago, it would have been absolutely perfect. But with a new Mario Kart coming, I mean, this game will still sell, don't get me wrong, but like, I mean, realistically, a lot of people are going to be focusing on Mario Kart, and that's, you know, unfortunate, because this game it's doing some really cool things. We're obviously still in the kart racing genre, but it feels really distinct at the same time. I felt like playing it. Like, I never felt like I was playing just, you know, Mario Kart with Sonic. This really felt like Sonic's own take on the kart racing genre, and I had so much fun. The crossworld mechanic, brilliant! It's so fun. Like, why? I've been saying this for years. Why hasn't Nintendo done something like this? Yes, I was saying that before Crossworlds even existed. I have this exact idea. But like, they have freaking warp pipes in Mario. Why have they not used them? It's such a good fit, right?
It's perfect, and that's the thing. Like, the crossworld mechanic, I was a little skeptical at first, but it works so well, because even though it's only for the second lap, your first and third lap, they might change the stage, like it might feel different. For example, if you're playing on Water Palace, on the very end at the water area, it opens up some areas that you couldn't go to on lap 1.
It's so cool. Like, yeah, it feels like there's progression. Like, a more notable example, just because it stands out more, is when you're going through the like the dinosaur museum and the fossils come to life on the third lap. Yeah. Right? Like, it's crazy. What was really cool was I had a couple times now, it was back to back even, I think, or at least back to back when I had that track, you know, skipping any others in between, is I went from the museum to the Crossworlds dinosaur realm, and back to the museum, and the dinosaurs are alive again. I'm like, this is so great. This is so cool. And that is so fun. Like, it really gives the races this really good energy, I feel like. Like, it's always changing, it's dynamic, which is something I was saying in one of my Mario Kart videos recently for things I would like the series to do, where Mario Kart is pretty static. Like, outside of a handful of examples, the tracks aren't really changing at all. And I really loved how this one is not only going to a whole different track for the second lap, but then when you come back to the third, it almost feels like a different track again, you know?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, they've had this in previous Sonic Racing games, specifically Sonic Racing Transform, where the lap dynamic has changed completely. Like, maybe it's been so long since I played Transform, but maybe you're on a stage that you start on a bridge, but then the second lap the bridge breaks, so now you're driving on the water, and then the final lap, like, there's no water, so maybe you're just flying. And that is carried over to this game, right, which is great. And speaking of, like, older tracks, there's some older tracks in this one from previous Sonic Racing games, but they felt pretty brand new. For example, Sky Road, when you start off at that's a crossworld track. When you fly into that, or when you get into the ring, you're flying right away. But that doesn't happen in the previous game because there was no flight in Team Sonic Racing. So when you're at that segment, you're just going off a ramp and that's it. So they add so much to that. And I'm pretty sure you were a fan of the flying segments, right?
It's fun. I've said before, I find the Mario Kart, the flying in Mario Kart, and also I want to be clear, I'm a huge Mario Kart fan, so I'm not just dumping on it constantly. But yeah, I find the flying in Mario Kart to be boring. Like, I can go make a sandwich while it flies itself, basically, right? Here, you have to pay attention, you know? Like, you can try to get the aerial boost, which is fun. I wish Mario Kart would borrow something like that. It feels like you have more freedom, you know? And there are more hazards to watch out for, too. Like, it really feels like there's a lot going on, and I didn't mind the flying segments. Whereas in Mario Kart, it's like, I just want to get back to the race. But here, it is the race.
Yeah, I thought I was going to have that concern with it too when we first saw gameplay. I thought it was just going to be a straightforward, like, that's it. And like you said, you can just go make a sandwich and do something in the meantime. But if you look at Sky Road or even the lava level, it's like, no, if you're going straight, you're probably going to hit a barrier or hit one of those lava dragon things. It's just going to come colliding at you, so that you really need to pay attention.
Let me tell you, I thought I was in a Star Fox stage going through that lava level the first time, right? Straight up.
I felt like it too. Oh my god.
So good. Yeah, I mean, and that's where there's a level of cohesion here, so shockingly, between all the different elements that they're doing, the crossworlds, the transformations, and of course they've had some experience with, you know, some of these elements before, like the transformations, obviously. But I think just everything like coalesced here in a way that it hadn't for me in any other Sonic racing game, where it feels like they nailed almost everything. And I will have, like, you know, a couple of complaints later on, but like at a top level, like, I just had a ton of fun. And including how well, like, the online worked, you know? Like, I had, you know, there were a couple of, like, server errors early, you know, in the matchmaking, but beyond that, like, it ran flawlessly for me.
Yeah, in my 15 hours, I think I disconnected maybe 5 times.
That's
and that
not
wasn't
bad.
even in a match. It was maybe 1 disconnect during a match, and the other 4 times it was in the lobby. But even when you disconnect, all you do, click the X button, and you're right back to the menus. It was quick and snappy.
It is, yeah. I will say I do have, yeah, the menus in general work pretty well, I'd say. Though I do have one complaint, it's probably just a me thing, and me just not adapting. But I kept finding myself getting sucked back into the freaking customization menus without me wanting to. Like, I'd exit them, I'd want to go back, and I want to start playing a race, but I just press A, and I go right back into the menus. I'm like, no! Or X, whatever I pressed on PS5, you know? But anyways, we haven't touched on, like, the kart customizations here either yet. And that's like a big element that I didn't even know about. Actually, let me be clear here. Like, I watched the initial trailer. You know, I got like some loose idea of what the crossworlds was. I didn't even quite understand it until you actually broke it down for me. And you know, before I started playing the demo, and I didn't even know anything about the gear system. And I'm really liking this. Like, I'm not a huge fan in general of, like, customizing cars, but I feel like it just kind of just takes too much time. I'm not a huge fan of the reels of Mario Kart either, especially when my, you know, friends take an hour to make their custom card or whatever. But I really, what I do like is these, you know, is the gear, because it's basically like badges from Paper Mario or perks from, you know, any other game. And I dig that, because it allows you to change a game to a playstyle that suits you, while experimenting, you know, while just also making every race feel a little different, not just because of what you bring to it, but also what others bring as well. I mean, there's one in there that lets you swap your items like Double Dash. There's another that lets you treat it like bumper cars, where every time you bump into someone you get a speed boost. I love that one. What did you think of the gear?
Yeah, I was a fan of it. Obviously, there's going to be some tweaking to it, because at times I was getting frustrated. I was like, okay, maybe I need more defensive items, or I need more speed items. But when I was using those ones, I didn't feel like I was getting enough speed items or defensive items at the same time. And the thing is, with the perk system, each one costs a specific amount. So you have 6 total, I guess, what do you want to call them? 6 total slots that you can use. But like the speed one costs 3 and the defense one costs 2. But the power one only costs 1. So that's maybe why it was so chaotic at the time, because everyone's just throwing on the easy 1 slot. But no, it does add a great mechanic and add some customization. And thing I was checking too, I was seeing if there was like a meta build right away. So I don't know if you knew about this, but in the menu,
already becoming sweat here.
yeah, I know, that's how I felt. Like, oh, I want to get the win. But in the menu in the lobby, when you're waiting for a race, you can check on people's profiles and see what they're using.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they don't even highlight it or anything. If you, I think, click the X button, you can hover around, pick what character you want to look at their builds, look at their most played characters. But the ones I went with the most was the trick one, where you do the tricks a lot faster.
Quickly, yeah.
Yeah, the quick trick. I use the speed up for the drift, so you get your level 1 drift a lot quicker.
That one, yep.
I use the get rings when you cross a boost. I think you get 5 when you get that, and then I got the magnet one. So when you're a little bit further away from the rings, they'll pull them to you. So those are my favorite ones. Again, I try and mix it around with some other builds. Like I said, the defense one, the speed up items one. But yeah, I had a blast with it, and I think this will actually add to the longevity of the game, hoping that people don't, like I said, don't find whatever the meta is, because when I looked over each player, everyone was rocking something different.
Right, yeah, that's great. And yeah, my concern is that like a meta will emerge and everyone will just start using that, which is, to a degree a problem Mario Kart has as well. So I hope that Sega, like, keeps looking at it, maybe rebalances it every now and then, kind of keep it fresh, maybe throw in some new gear every now and then. I think that'd be really interesting if they keep building on that.
Yeah.
And we know there's more gear in the game, at least the extreme parts, right? We know that. Are there extreme parts? Extreme gear?
So the hoverboards, but that's going to be added to the actual vehicle. I don't know if they'll be added to like the gadget list.
Okay.
Unless they are like specific ones tied just to those.
Got it, right. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that changes or evolves for the final game. But it's a really promising system so far. And like I'm usually one who's not like generally a huge fan of customizing things, especially in games that are meant to be simple, because I just don't want to have to worry about that kind of stuff. I don't want to be. I can find it overwhelming. I just want to get to the game. But here, I mean, for one, you don't. I mean, you probably do need to embrace it at some point if you want to stay competitive, but you don't have to initially, at least. But also, like, I found it simple enough that like even I, an idiot, could like figure this stuff out. And he did a good job explaining it. So I very much enjoyed all that, and I think it adds a layer of depth that is kind of nice to have in a kart racing game. And it's just fun to do. It's like, I want to experiment with this. I want to. Try one where I can do 1,000 stunts in the air, when I flip off that really high ramp. It's just really fun. And that's another thing too, I actually really like the trick system here. I mean, there's not a lot of skill to it, just kind of like tapping a button, I think. But, that's kind of how it is in Mario Kart too. But here I like that it's more responsive, I can just keep doing it, And that kind of makes it feel a little bit more lively, I found.
So yeah, my concern, I've been playing a lot of Sonic Riders leading up to this over the past couple of weeks, and in that there is a skill element to it. So in Sonic Riders, you hold down the A button, and you have to let it go at like the peak of the jump. And then depending on how long you hold it for, will determine how many tricks you can do. And then on top of that, you have to land it specifically. So like if you're on your side, you're not going to land the trick, and you're not going to get the boost or anything.
Whereas
so
here it doesn't matter at all, I don't think, right?
So it doesn't matter here at all, and eventually I'm like, okay, let me just put on the auto trick, because I don't know if you did see this, but they have auto trick.
I saw that. I didn't try it. Did it just do a ton of tricks for you?
It does it for you automatically. Yeah. So like I came into a habit where I would just flick it once, but that doesn't do anything. I'm like, okay, let me just act like I'm doing something here. So it just does all the tricks for you, so you don't have to do it, because there's so many jumps here, and you're constantly doing tricks.
You're constantly doing it. Yep, it's true. Yeah, I mean, I guess I've never loved tricks in Mario Kart, but I've, gotten used to them. They're fine. And so I kind of like this game just took it to the dumb extreme. It's like, they're kind of dumb in Mario Kart. Just do as many as you want here, So under that guise, I like it. But I actually kind of, I don't know if this was your point, but if they were to add a more strategic element to it as well, I wouldn't mind that either. Like, I think a good compromise would be, because you want it to be accessible too, of course. But maybe if there were like, some gear you'd equip, or gadgets, whatever they're called, to like reward you for better timing of it or something. That could be interesting. Like where you choose to take on that risk if you want a bigger boost or something for it.
Yeah, I love that idea, because like you said, maybe if you want to do one extra trick, but if you don't land it, then you don't get a boost. But if you do land it, you get that extra boost over everyone else. And speaking of tricks, this is where I guess we'll get into our first complaint, at least my first complaint with the game, is that the voice of the characters. They're talking so much.
They're talking a lot.
I don't know if you ever noticed that, but whenever you're doing a trick, whenever you're doing a drift, they're just constantly saying like the same voice lines over and over again.
I have a pretty high tolerance from it, from years of Mario Kart, that this game is more aggressive with it. Although I will say, playing as Amy, her 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, that was driving me nuts. I get it, Amy.
You're nuts.
A counting lesson? Is this Sesame Street?
So yeah, the thing is, in the previous Sonic Racing game, the characters had a lot of banter with each other, and they took that out completely. I mean, every once in a while, at the top of the screen, like you'll see, like maybe Sonic will say, like, "Eggman, you stink like a rotten egg," and Eggman will say, "At least I'm not an animal." But in the previous one, it was every few seconds. It was almost as like annoying as the tricks. They were just constantly bumping into each other, and they would say something. You hit someone with an item, they would say something. So I'm happy they dumbed that down a little bit and just made it every once in a while in the race.
I think I may have only seen it, unless I missed it. I think I only saw it once in my 7 hours with the game or so. And I kind of wish it would dial that up a little bit, not to the extreme you're talking about. Yeah, find a happy middle ground. But I actually love the idea of them talking to each other. I think that'd be cool in Mario Kart as well. But yeah, it barely happened here. But I also wouldn't want to happen every time you do something. So yeah, I think they need to work on that adjustment a little bit. But kind of to balance off that point, then that adds like a kind of like chaotic audio element. We got to talk about the overall chaos in general of this game, because I had people watching the stream be like, I don't even know what's going on, And this is the thing that I actually like. I'm actually surprised I'm mostly okay with it. to the point that like it didn't immediately turn me off, because I actually felt some other Sonic Racing games were actually also chaotic in their own way, and for whatever reason I was able to mostly follow it here, not completely, but I was mostly able to follow what was going on, that I was still having fun despite how much is going on there, because there is a lot. You got the vehicles, the power-ups, the levels themselves changing, all the hazards within them happening, and there's getting back to the power-ups, there's a lot of them happening at the same time too, and the game is fast. So, and you got the rings and everything as well, so
there is so much. I hope they bring that down a little bit, at least the item usage, and make that should be more of like a, what's the term called, like a frantic mode. It happens every once in a while when you do a CrossWorlds level, or I don't know if you ever noticed that, where they give you no. Oh. So when you do a CrossWorlds level, no, it's not that.
Okay.
They give you, or maybe it is frantic mode, and you get unlimited drift, or you get. I guess they do it for the rings too, maybe.
No, yeah, I thought I heard frantic mode being referred to the pink rings as well. It gives it speed boost, but in any case, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I feel like the item usage now should be limited to, is like this frantic mode, and that's the frustrating thing. Like I saw you using some of these items, like the 3 stock or the swapping items, and I wanted to play a little bit more strategically and hold these for later. But eventually, like, maybe the Dark Chow will come in and just take your items away and give you new ones. Or maybe you get hit by an item. It's like, okay, well, I wanted to be a little bit more strategic with them, but I couldn't, because once I get an item, I should just use it, because I'm just going to get another item in a few seconds, or someone's just going to take it from me.
That's a really good point. Yeah, and actually this does get in one of my complaints. Not just the chaos of it, but overall, I didn't mind the items in a general sense. Like, most of them are fairly clear, though some are still a little confusing to me, but I got used to most of them over the course of it, and I find it to be clearer than a lot of other kart racing games I've played. And Mario Kart has that unfair advantage where everyone knows what everything does, because we've been playing that series for 30 years. But yeah, some of them, like, I guess not only are, like, I'll get attacked oftentimes, I didn't even know what hit me. It's like, I also didn't even know how to fight back. It's like, could I have defended against that? Did I even have a chance to counter that? And kind of to that point too, as you were saying, like, you just feel encouraged to use your items quickly because you run the risk of losing them. And oftentimes I didn't even know how I lost mine. I'm like, oh, the item I had is just gone now, and I don't know where it went. Probably because I got hit, as you get hit a ton in this game. And I don't even know how you start addressing that, because it just kind of feels inherent to how the game works now.
It does.
But I'm sure they can, I just don't know immediately how to address it. I mean, maybe reducing the amount of items would be kind of a quick way of, I guess here's a couple examples. Let me know if these are good ideas.
Go for it.
Reducing the amount of items, maybe making it so, because you're almost always guaranteed an item, except in a rare case when you reach a row of item boxes, they respawn really quick. Maybe
it's basically instant.
Yeah, it's basically instant. Although I say that as one who did miss them a fair amount of times. In any case, it's basically instant. Make it so maybe you have to go more out of your way in some cases to get items. Make it so there are occasional ones you're basically guaranteed an item. But just dial back the amount of items. And on top of that, make it so you don't lose your items as often either. Because, this happens too in Mario Kart, where I often held on to like a boost item and I'd lose it to a freaking boo or lightning bolt or something. But it never feels as frequent as this, where I'm like, I have to use this immediately or I'm losing it. Use it or lose it, right? And
yeah, and like I said, the Dark Chow's taking it away. I think there's like a stomp or like something that flattens you. It takes it away. There's maybe another,
or the monster truck can flatten you too. Yeah.
Yeah, the monster truck flattens you too. But what was I gonna say? I had a good point. Oh yeah, when I use the gadget for defense items up, I think it barely even gave me one extra defense item. I don't know if you ever got this one, but it was just a shield. It turned you into metal, like basically Metal Mario. Okay, I try to get that as much as possible, but even when I had the defense item up, I got it once. I'm like, I'm not going to use this gadget because I'm not seeing the benefits of it.
Right? No, I exactly. Like, I tried the 3 item system, or the 3 item one. I'm like, oh, that'd be useful, And I didn't have time to get the 3rd item. I got like twice across a handful of races, and even then, I could barely even focus on what I had because I was so into the race and just worrying about all that. And not even to mention the swap ability, which on paper is great. I love Double Dash,
but it has a cooldown to it.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. Wow. On top of that,
it's a 5-second cooldown.
5-second cooldown? That's absurd. Why?
It is. Yeah.
And then on top of it, with the default controls, it's almost impossible to hit because it's on triangle. I mean, you have to take your hand off gas in order to use it.
Oh, I didn't even think about. I used the Team Sonic Racing controls
that
with gas being R2.
Yeah.
So it worked a lot better with that. But I didn't even think about, you're giving up gas just to swap out the item.
Right. So do you know? You might know better than I do. Like, what ways are there to defend yourself? You can, of course, you have the like that tornado thing that appears around you, or
So I don't know if you noticed too. When you have an item, it's there's like a ring around it to show what it specifically does, like color coordinated.
I didn't even
So
know
if you
that.
have
Wow.
I think it's blue for speed, red for attack, green for defense, and
Okay,
then
yeah.
is there a third one or a fourth one? It might just be those three. But going back to your question, the defense items, there's the metal one, which is just a shield. There's the purple wisp, which I think is called black hole, which just takes in everything. Like if
Right.
someone shoots an item, it's just going to absorb it. If there's rings around, it's just going to absorb it. There's the tornado one, but I think that's more so used as an attack item. And outside of that, I think that's really it. I don't think there's a lot of defense items in the game.
Yeah, that seemed to be my take, and it's possible I wasn't using them all optimally, of course, or correctly. But yeah, from what I could tell, it's like I didn't always have I often didn't have a great way of defending myself. And
Yeah.
obviously that's sometimes the case in Mario Kart 2, but there I feel like I was more in control a lot of the time, and here I'm like, I don't know what, like there's nothing I really could have done, you know, like I'm just at the mercy of whoever everyone else has, you know. And I found this to be at the, maybe it's me, I found it, I always found it to be the complete worst at the end of the race. Like it just turns into complete chaos at that final straightaway.
The last 5 seconds are the most important to the race. Every single race, it's like, oh, I'm in first.
Right.
I get hit by 1 item, 2 item, 3 items. Now I'm in 9th place.
Yeah,
It's like,
you fall behind
oh
fast.
my.
It's crazy in this game. Like, I mean, so I guess to the game's credit, but I think overall it's kind of a good thing. Like, it does a pretty good job of keeping everyone relatively close together, usually. And
yeah,
that's
the pack is there forever. It seems
Right.
like you're in the pack constantly, unlike Mario Kart, where you see someone in first place,
Break
they're
away.
miles ahead
Yep.
of you. But yeah, the pack is like constantly moving.
But the downside to that is you have it where just only the final 5 seconds really matter to the race, where it almost feels like everything was invalidated because
Of
it just comes
course.
down to like, can you survive the final like stretch there? And it also felt like every racetrack too kind of ended the same way. Maybe they don't, but I just always felt like it just ended in a straightaway, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no room here for me to do anything.
Yeah, I had a feeling with that too. Again, the final 5 seconds, the straightaway.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully they have a little bit more time to play around with the items and
Exactly.
balance it a little bit more. But yeah, it's just so frantic. It's so chaotic.
And I want to be clear. Obviously, from the rest of this discussion, we had a total blast playing this.
Such a good time.
And it's so. First off, I think it's cool that Sega even did this. I mean, it's good for them too, obviously. But it's cool that it seemed like most people, as far as I'm aware, maybe a lot of people didn't get in as well, but most people that applied seem to have gotten in and were able to play it. And they had a good amount of content in there. It was really fun to get get our hands dirty with this game. You know, possibly months before releases, maybe even a year. We don't know. We don't know when this game's coming out. Do we know it's at least this year? Do we know that at least? Or
I
no?
believe when they first teased it at the Game Awards last year, I believe it said 2025.
Okay. I think it might be
so
right.
we do know it's coming out this year. And they haven't even confirmed it for Switch yet. But there was one, not even on their website. Maybe I saw in a trailer somewhere else they had the logo, but it was in that one specific trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like, we don't even know if this is coming to Switch 1 or Switch 2.
Right. Sales-wise, for them, I would think hitting Switch 1 would be a huge, huge thing. But with that, track switching stuff, it's like, do they need the faster memory of Switch 2? So that's so cool. And I want to circle back to that in a little bit here, but I think that's such a cool mechanic that we've kind of glossed over pretty quick. Not that there's a whole lot to dive into. Except for Kraken Bay, because that's all water. And I got that so many freaking times, by the way, on day 1 at least. But yeah, I think the takeaways, I think Sega needs to, look at this beta, which, again, I'm glad that they had it, is, how can we make it so the player feels a little bit more control, I think. And maybe it's as simple as, we touched on a couple already, reduce the amount of items, make it so you don't lose your items, as easily. And also maybe making it so like that, the final third, I don't know how do you fix that. Like, are the item boxes just too close to the end there? Is that what's going on? But I always felt like I was just getting hammered in the final few seconds.
Yeah.
And I don't think people are holding on to their items that long. So maybe that's it. Maybe you just need to roll back the amount of items in that third lap, actually. Maybe that's how you do it. Reduce the reliance on them toward the end of the race.
But I don't know if you noticed this too, on the final lap, at the very end, like the final stretch, they also have speed rings too. Did you notice that? Like, they're coming from the sky and they're jumping up and down.
Are those the pink ones?
Yeah, those are the pink
Okay,
ones.
yeah, I did notice that. Right.
Yeah, so those are there too.
Yeah, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know. I mean, with how chaotic it is,
Right,
I'm like,
exactly.
maybe it is a good thing.
And that's the thing too. Like, it's hard. I think it's I don't care how much anyone played over this weekend, it's still a limited glimpse into this game, and, I don't think anyone's going to have all the balancing answers for this, and I think a lot of the complaints may be a little premature as well, or like some of the specific ones. But I do think there are some areas for Sega to look at, even if I think on the whole, this game is already a huge success. Like, I had a lot of fun with it, and that's the most important thing, is just having fun with it.
Yeah, I had a blast with it too. Again, another concern I have, and I know we're talking about concerns, but we had a blast with the game, is that hopefully it holds my attention for longer than a few races.
Yep.
Because when I'm playing Mario Kart, I'm usually playing for like 2 or 3 hours with my friends. But I'm hoping that this isn't a game that I'm playing to wait to play other games with my friends, if that makes sense. Like, if I'm waiting for them to play like Overwatch or Marvel Rivals, I hope I'm not just booting this up for like a race or two. And that goes into like the single player content. I hope we haven't seen a glimpse of what the single player content's going to be like, so I hope there's at least stuff there keeping me like held over outside of the multiplayer stuff. Yeah,
no, I mean, I agree on pretty much all those fronts, even if I probably don't care too much about single player myself. Unless it's like an amazing campaign or something, then, I'll check it out, of course. But yeah, I'm right there with you. Like, luckily, based on, it seems both of our playtime so far, which being multiple hours, I didn't feel like I was reaching that point yet of it feeling repetitive. Like, I was feeling like I was having, fun, and it felt fresh almost every time I was going into it, despite it still only being a handful of tracks. I'm like, I'm still having a blast with this game.
Yeah.
And I think that really speaks to, like, the energy of this game. Like, it just feels really dynamic, and I really like that about it. Like, that's why it feels distinct to Mario Kart, I think. Whereas, perhaps not always to its benefit, because as we touched on, it's a little chaotic at times. But I really do like just that energy it has, where it just feels like things are changing constantly. And it's so cool, like, some of the set pieces here are amazing. Having that giant Kraken, thrashing around, or the, dinosaurs are narrowly dodging, like a T-Rex lunging at you. And that's so cool. It's like, where's dinosaurs in Mario Kart? They had it once in Double Dash, then really never again. And even those dinosaurs, like, I love that game, and I love those dinosaurs. But even those dinosaurs are, like, totally chill compared to these dinosaurs here who are, like, actively trying to eat you,
Yeah,
and
they're just sitting there.
Yeah, right. And then, you're racing along the neck of, what, a Brachiosaurus or something at the end? Like, it's crazy. It's so cool. Or you got the orcas jumping around in the ocean stage. It's like, oh, that stuff is awesome. Like, that's so cool. And I love that Mario Kart took a few pages from this game in that respect. Like, the only kind of similar set piece I can even think of in that game is like the giant Bowser in one of the Bowser's castles.
Oh, the one that's like punching.
Yeah, punching. Right.
Lava. Yeah.
And that's it. It's like, I want more of that.
The game reminds me, you probably played these games. Again, I think the developer for this isn't Sumo Digital. I believe it's the one that makes like Maximum Tune games, like the arcade racing games.
Okay.
So it felt a lot more like the Mario arcade racing game.
Yeah, arcade-ish.
And like in Cruisin' USA.
Oh! I got hard Cruisin' vibes from this.
It feels such like Cruisin' USA because it's so chaotic, it's so arcadey. Going back to the Mario Kart arcade one, when you throw an item at someone, you hit them, like you see their icon on the screen. I believe that's what happens in that too.
It does. I love this. Yeah, I love that. I like that you can see who you're hitting, like in the Mario Kart arcade, as you said. And and it kind of ties back to what you were saying earlier, where this game does feel just more modern than Mario Kart, which makes sense. Mario Kart is based on a 10-year-old game at this point, over 10 years. So it's nice to see, Sega taking some lessons from that. Even, things down to, like, with the lobby, you can send, like, the cute little emotes, back and forth, rather than just text, and I like how the characters had a little phrase or animation that goes with it.
And that's a huge improvement from the previous Sonic game, because in Team Sonic Racing, outside of what I said, like in the banter during the race, the characters, when you're on the character selection screen and you're looking at the characters, in the previous Sonic Racing game, they just held the wheel and looked straight into the camera. They didn't blink, they didn't breathe.
Oh, man.
It was like, oh my god, this is just a model sitting there. But in this game, in Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, they're like moving up and down, like they're bobbing their heads, they're blinking their eyes, they're super animated.
They are almost a little too much, at least in one case being Tails, where he looks like one of those like car salesmen things, like an inflatable sock puppet thing or whatever.
Yeah, and his tails are going back and forth like this. His head, it's hilarious.
No, I had a lot of fun with it. Good personality. I would say actually my only small complaint is about the characters, and it's not even involving them, it's the cars. And some of those cars get so big, you can't really see the characters in some cases. Yeah. And I felt like I'd pass them, I'm like, I don't even know who that was, So. But, anything else you want to touch on in regards to this game?
I guess secret characters, or what's possibly left for the characters.
Yeah, who do you want here? Because we know you were telling me that there's more characters that we saw on the character select screen than Sega had confirmed before, right?
Yeah, so if you go to the website, it says 23 playable characters at launch. I'm like, okay, that's an odd number because it's an actual odd number.
Yeah.
But they're also bringing back the team-based mechanic from the previous game. So in that game, every 3 characters were on a team.
Okay.
So to have an odd number, it'd be like, wait a minute, is 2 characters not going to be on a specific team? So that was just a little odd.
Yeah.
But if you looked at the character selection screen, it actually had 28 slots. But we know of 23 characters. And like I said, on the website, it says 23 characters. So who I'm hoping for... also on the website, it says that Sonic Prime characters are coming. So those could be those extra spots. I'm hoping for Sonic Adventure 1 representation. So I want like Chaos to call, maybe some Chow to come back. Those are the characters I'm hoping for.
Big the cat?
Yeah, Big's confirmed. So we're definitely
getting Big.
Confirmed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So the group of characters I don't want, and we already have 2 of them in, are the Deadly Six. They're from Sonic Lost Worlds. It would be like adding the Koopaling's cousins, uncle, grandfather.
You mean like metal characters or something?
Yeah, it would be to a degree of
Right.
metal characters because they're not fan favorites. They're kind of oddball characters. They're one and done in that game, but Zavok and Zaz have been coming back in spin-offs and stuff. So I hope they don't add the additional Deadly Six.
Yeah, I feel like it almost kind of undermines whatever special, however special Zaz feels right now. I will say, I was surprised by how much of a fan base in my stream Zaz seemed to have. People were like, "This is the Waluigi of Sonic."
Yeah, he 100% is. So that's the thing. Like, if they add the additional, I think they're missing 4 Deadly Six characters, what would fill all those slots but 1. I hope it's not them. But I also heard that. I think the comics, the IDW comics, are technically part of like the Sonic game lore now. Mm-hmm. So they could be bringing characters from the Sonic comics, which I have no idea about. I've never read any of the Sonic comics, so that's kind of out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So if we get new characters from there, that'd be awesome.
That'd be cool. I think this could be a great opportunity for them to like bring in some of those more oddball characters. Kind of treat it like kind of like how Mario Kart does. Maybe not as much as Mario Kart even could, but they haven't brought in like Paper Mario or anything. But you do have the baby characters there who I actually hate, but those are from like yeah, they're actually from the more some of the spin-off games or I guess Yoshi's Island, kind of weird mainline spin-off thing. Anyways, yeah, I think that'd be cool. They explored more of the off the wall stuff for this. So sorry,
I was gonna say So on top of the characters and the title being CrossWorlds,
yep.
Do we think that they're actually gonna bring in characters from Sega IP outside of Sonic?
I kind of hope so, even if, at the same time, I like how kind of Sonic focused the game has been so far, as compared to, like, Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformed, I think it was, where it was, like, all Sega characters. So I don't know if I want to lose that, kind of like how some people don't want to lose the essence of Mario Kart, by making a Nintendo Kart. But at the same time, Mario Kart has, I think, successfully brought in some of those outside characters.
Of course.
And I would love if they did it here, too. Make it, like, not the focus, but as a side thing, I think that'd be neat. Bring in, the monkeys from Monkey Ball, or a monkey from Monkey Ball, or, Knights from Knights, or anyone else. Who would you want in here?
I would want either Persona characters, so like
that'd
Joker or Morgana. And Morgana has actually been in Monkey Ball. So, like, there is presence there of, like, other Sega characters crossing over. And like you said, they did the crossover in All-Stars, the first Sonic Racing game, and in Transform. But I would also want some Yakuza characters, which would be super goofy. Or even, like, Hatsune Miku.
Yakuza would be amazing. Oh, my God. That would be great. And yeah, actually, now I'm even picturing, like, the crossover worlds,
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Like, I mean, yeah, going to like, actual Japan in the Yakuza case. That'd be hilarious. Or like Knights actually ties in well with, they already had rings in the game, so that could be a flying segment, where you're flying through the Knights rings and stuff. Yeah, that'd be really cool. I think that'd be really, I actually think it'd be a waste opportunity. They don't explore at least a handful of worlds outside Sonic. But I will say the ones they have so far have actually felt surprisingly diverse. Like bringing back, I think the Kraken stage from Sonic and the Sonic and the Secret Rings, like, right? That's awesome. Like, that's great.
Yeah.
Like, that's a game I didn't even like that much. I'm like, it's cool to see it here. And I'd like to see even more of that. Have they had like a Sonic R stage here as a crossover? How cool would that be? I didn't
even think, because they've never used, like, in the previous Sonic Racing game, they've used Sonic R music, but they've never used any Sonic R stages.
Right.
So if they had, like, the low polygon style of that, like, that would be so much fun. I didn't think about that.
That'd be amazing. Like, what if every character transformed to that low poly version? That'd be hilarious. They probably won't go that far, but that would be amazing. But we didn't even touch on the music, by the way. What did you think overall of the music in this game?
I was a fan of it, and especially the previous stages coming back, like Roulette Road or Sky Road.
Yeah.
Those stages, I believe, had remixes. So, like, even though those stages came from previous games, they didn't use the direct music from those games. They remixed those completely, which was nice. And then on the final lap, they have, like, a acapella version. Like, I don't know if you noticed that, like, they have, like, vocals or chanting going on at the end.
I actually love that.
Yeah.
It added such a cool energy. It's like, man, again, it's something else I want Mario Kart to do. Mario Kart, I think, just speeds up the music, right?
Yep.
And it's like, man, this is so much cooler. We actually add to it meaningfully, to the point where it almost feels like a different track. But like, it makes it feel intense, you know? And
it does.
And that's really cool. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it, like you said, it makes it feel like a different track because there's other segments on the final track that open up along with the music. It's just like, oh, I forgot where I was like 10 seconds ago because I was in like Kraken Bay or the dinosaur level, and now I'm back here like, oh, I didn't even realize I was here again.
It's really cool. I'm really liking almost everything this game is doing. The crossworld mechanic works really well. It's neat that the player who's in first like has a choice for it, and it kind of gives you like that meta battle trying to be in first for at least that segment, so you can be the one who chooses. And it just it adds a fun dynamic element where even if you go to a track you're familiar with, you can end up somewhere where you may not be, or you don't know where you're gonna end up, and that's super cool. Really fun ideas here. Did it surpass your expectations based on the trailer, or?
It definitely did. I was super excited about it. I think going forward, there might be like one or two more trailers. Like there'll probably be a big trailer for the Extreme Gear.
Right.
Because, like I said, if you looked at when you were selecting your cards, they have power, speed, handling, and acceleration. But the hoverboards, the Extreme Gear, have their own section. So I don't know what they're going to specialize in, or if they're going to play like they do in previous Sonic Riders games, where they had like the boost in health, kind of like F-Zero.
Right.
So like I said, I expect a kind of a big blowout with that and what they specifically do in the game, if they act anything different than the carts currently.
Yeah, is that what's called Extreme Gear in this game?
Yeah, Extreme Gear.
I mean, that name alone suggests that it's probably, I would think, is for like more expert players, and that there's going to be some kind of more strategic element to it, perhaps. So.
And that might have been the reason why they didn't include it in the beta test this weekend, or the closed alpha test.
That would make sense. So, yeah. Well, any final thoughts or impressions, Nick, that you have for us based on what we played of your entire weekend dedicated to?
My entire weekend of playing it and making the shorts. I'm looking forward to this. I'm hoping that when Mario Kart gets a big blowout, that it doesn't kind of overshadow this, because I want this to
overshadow Shadow.
Yeah, exactly. Don't overshadow Shadow. No, I want this to run alongside Mario Kart, because what we have here is fantastic for what we played so far. A few tweaks here with the chaotic nature of it, maybe tweak on working the items and whatnot, but what I played, I had a blast with it, and I can't wait for the actual release of the game.
I pretty much echo all of that, and I say this is one who's not a huge Sonic fan. I'm not a Sonic hater either, maybe for some games. I had a total blast with this. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I think the timing may just be unfortunate for it, going up against a new Mario Kart. Though we don't know when either is fully releasing yet. May not be a big deal. I just think it's too bad, because I think this game deserves, based on what I played, all the attention. It's a ton of fun, and it would have been perfect to have it in that, somewhere in that 10-year gap, except at the very end now, and
yeah.
But yeah, I can't wait to see how that actually shakes up, shakes out. I hope Sega takes some of the feedback to heart. Not all of it, perhaps. I'm sure there's some bad takes out there, but I will say, actually, I saw a couple of threads out there at least, with some like complaints about the game, but even those seem to be mostly couched like out of love. Like they really seem to enjoy the game, and a lot of the complaints I saw were like mostly nitpick stuff, like characters talking too much, as you touched on earlier. Not that it's not a legit complaint, but in the grand scheme of things, not a huge deal. And that, I think, shows just how good this game is. Like Sega has finally figured out something really. I mean, Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformers is fun too, but I think here they've really raised the bar on what a non-Mario Kart racing game can be.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a combination of all the great hits from all the previous Sonic Racing games. Like, you have the great designs of the first one, you have the transform mechanic from the third one, you have the team-based mechanic, which is coming back, but we haven't tried yet, from the previous one, Team Sonic Racing. So it does really feel like everything's coming together for this fourth iteration.
That's it. Yeah, I can't wait to see more. I hope we don't have to wait too long, but I also want them to take the time to address our feedback. So, we'll see. On that note, thanks for watching, everyone. Nick, where can people follow you at besides the brilliant shorts you've been making on our channel, often about this very game?
Yeah, so like Andre said, you can check out my shorts here on the channel, but if you're going other places on YouTube, I have my own channel called Steftendo. That's Steftndo, like my last name in Nintendo. You can check me out there. I've been doing streams over there, been playing a lot of Sonic Riders, played Sonic CrossWorlds over the weekend, but yeah, if you don't see me here, you can see me over there.
Awesome. You can find links to all that in the description below. Otherwise, keep it locked here on GameXplain for more on this game eventually, and tons of other stuff, mostly Nintendo here as well. With that, we'll catch you later, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye.